Hello, my name is Nosheen and I'm applying for the fellowship status in the Higher Education Academy. I will start my journey and sum up that how I became from a student to a teacher. Obviously, I will not go very basic details, but I will start it from my MPhil, in which I did my coursework along with the research work. Then I move on towards my PhD, in which you learn a lot from everywhere and in every way. Along with my PhD, I did my faculty GTE training courses and I get my associate fellowship status in Higher Education Academy. And now I'm applying for the fellowship status in which I will discuss with you my two cases. Two cases. The first case involves the computer workshops to the undergraduate students, and the second case involves the lab demonstration in the chemistry labs. I also did the lab marking given by the marking college. So I will sum up with the lab demonstration because I marked the same lab reports for which I did the lab demonstration. So I sum up both of them as a single case, that is case study two. Along with that, I also involved in the outreach activities in which the various school students, which were very young kids, you can say, they visited the university, and sometimes I, as a part of the team, visited their schools to showcase the chemistry activities. So the first case study, which involves the computer workshops, involves the chemistry undergraduate students of about 20 to 25 students, but I split them in about 2 to 3 students for to teach them the software. This small group learning is also taught by the Robillard, and the students have to make the 3 lab reports. So before the start of the computer workshop, I read the theory of all these reports, that how they in which they have to make the reports. I do the possible calculations, ask them the possible questions, and check and run the software before the students come into the lab, that whether this software is connected to the university VPN system or not. During, I keep an eye on their lab reports, that how they are making, and if they did anything wrong, then I point out their mistakes. I encourage them to discuss with me and to their lab fellows as well. After that, I check their lab reports and I also keep an eye on their lab marks given by another assessor. Whenever they come to the lab for the next time, then I discuss these marks for given by the other assessor, and I discuss their mistakes, and I also get from their mistakes. I also point out myself and evaluate myself and try to improve myself for the next teaching session. As a reflection, these computer workshops are very good way of teach of learning for the students, because I discussed with the different chemistry students of past, and they told me when these workshops were not there, then they had a problem of using the softwares, and they were also not good in writing the lab reports. For example, one student told me that when she made her first lab report, and the marker just told her to make it again. So these are the good way of learning for the students to make their lab reports and to improve their writing skills. But that also helped me a lot to improve my teaching as well. The next case study, which involves the demonstration and the marking, the lab demonstration was about 10 students, and the lab marking involves about 10 reports after probably about 2 to 3 weeks. During the lab demonstration and lab marking, I will discuss with you in detail about them. But in demonstration, I demonstrate the students of 10 weeks, 10 students, but sometimes I teach them individually, and sometimes even split them in about 2 to 3 to do how to use the equipment. So before the start of the lab, I read the theory of the experiment and do the literature survey as much as possible, because when the students write the report, then they can quote any literature. So I try my best to keep updated myself about the recent papers and the recent literature about that experiment and other things, other experiments as well. Prepare the questions and give a brief demonstration. And during the lab, I keep an eye on them, especially on the health and safety, respect each individual, and demonstrate them how to use the equipment. During the lab, I also demonstrate them briefly about their lab reports as well, because in lab report marking I learned from the students and they skipped a lot of things and they skipped a lot of data which they had done in the lab. So I briefly demonstrate them that what the students in the past have done the mistakes and you should not repeat those mistakes. So I demonstrate them during the lab demonstration about the how to make the lab report on this experiment. So that helped them a lot because these have improved their marks, and I will tell you how. Because when I assess them during the viva, then I take their viva at the end of the lab and I analyze them. And if they have not analyzed the data and they have not think about the application of the experiment, then in assessment, in taking the viva, I point out them and encourage them that to think the experiment critically in a critical way. So I encourage them how to improve, how they can improve themselves too, and how they can think critically about it, and to include all these critical analysis in their making their lab reports. And when I mark their lab reports, then I try my best to evaluate myself as well. For example, if the students have not included any critical analysis or any data analysis, then I think myself that I somewhere I have not delivered them rightly. So also try to improve myself as well. And but as a whole, I give the feedback to the students in lab report marking to improve their writing skill. I discuss with them, and if they are get not happy with them with their marks or anything else, then I also encourage them to talk to me to discuss it with me about their lab, about their marks, about how they can improve their lab reports, even out of hours in my office. I also introduce themselves to them to myself that I am going to mark their lab reports, and if they do not get anything or if they want they're not happy with their marks, then they can discuss with me even out of hours in my office or through my by my email so that I can explain them more clearly and more efficiently. So as a whole, the this lab activity and the lab marking is a good practice for them to learn because they analyze the data and they think the experiment critically and they also think about the application of the experiment, that what is the common application. For example, I work on surfactants and they when during the lab and they just keep busy themselves in doing the calculations and in getting the data, but they do not think critically that what are the application of these surfactants in our daily life. So I encourage them a lot to think that why they are doing the experiment in the lab. I learn a lot from their mistakes, and I think that the students are also improving themselves. Why? Because I check their lab marks on the blackboard, and the students kept on improving themselves. So this shows that the students get to learn from their mistakes, and I also improved myself from my mistakes. In the whole, as a conclusion, these training courses, this teaching experience helped me a lot to improve myself. Student experience, their assessment, and what the things they do right or what they did wrong. This makes me more and more efficient and good teacher. I try my best. Again, I will say that to respect each individual and to discuss them with about their problems, etc. and anything. And during all of this, my activity, I encourage the students to participate in higher education, especially they should do a PhD to get involved in higher education. And I think I have improved myself in teaching quality by discussing with the students, with the lab conveners, and with the senior staff members that to improve my teaching. And so all of these things have improved a lot to me and developed confidence in me. So at the end, I will say thank you.